Welcome, everyone, to our exploration of the rich and intricate history of philosophy. Today we embark on a journey through the philosophical traditions that have emerged over the millennia, tracing the intellectual evolution that has shaped human understanding and continues to resonate in our contemporary lives. Philosophy, at its core, is the profound pursuit of wisdom through rational inquiry, a practice that invites individuals to question, reflect, and ultimately seek deeper truths about ourselves and the world around us. Our journey begins in ancient Greece, the cradle of Western philosophy, where thinkers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle set the stage for the philosophical discourse to come. Socrates, with his relentless questioning and dialectical method, challenged the certainties of his time, emphasizing the importance of self-examination and moral inquiry. His student Plato extended these ideas, proposing a realm of ideal forms and engaging with profound metaphysical questions about reality, knowledge, and the nature of the good life. Plato's academy became a bastion of philosophical thought, while Aristotle, his student, would go on to establish his own school and provide systematic frameworks for logic, ethics, and natural sciences, laying the groundwork for many disciplines that followed. As we traverse the historical landscape, we encounter the Hellenistic schools of thought that flourished after the classical period, including Stoicism and Epicureanism. These philosophies offered practical guidance for living a good life amidst an often chaotic and unpredictable world, addressing the fundamental human struggle for happiness and tranquility. Fast forward to the medieval period, and we find philosophy engaging deeply with religion. Thinkers like Augustine of Hippo and Thomas Aquinas sought to reconcile faith with reason, exploring the relationship between divine revelation and human understanding. Their efforts to harmonize philosophical inquiry with theological tenets laid the foundation for much of Western thought and influenced Christian doctrine profoundly. With the dawn of the Renaissance came a renewed interest in humanism and the classics, leading to philosophical developments that questioned the very nature of knowledge and existence. Figures such as Descartes, Kant, and Hume grappled with epistemology, the study of knowledge itself. Descartes, famously asserting cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, proposed a new method of doubt that challenged established beliefs and emphasized the role of the individual mind in acquiring knowledge. As we move into the modern era, Kant's critical philosophy sparked dialogues about metaphysics, ethics, and aesthetics, addressing the limitations of human understanding and the very nature of moral reasoning. His ideas would influence later thinkers, including the existentialists and phenomenologists, who would explore the depths of human existence and the subjective experience. In the 19th and 20th centuries, the landscape of philosophy expanded dramatically with the emergence of diverse traditions, including existentialism, pragmatism, and postmodernism. Thinkers like Nietzsche challenged moral absolutes, asserting the importance of individual perspective, while others, such as John Dewey, emphasized practical implications of philosophical thought and its relevance to democracy and social progress. Meanwhile, the existentialists, with figures like Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, delved into human freedom, choice, and the search for meaning in an often absurd world. Today, we stand amidst a vibrant philosophical discourse that intersects with science, politics, and culture, reflecting the complexities of contemporary issues such as ethics in technology, environmental concerns, and social justice. The advent of digital forums has further democratized philosophical engagement, allowing diverse voices to contribute to the dialogue in unprecedented ways. As we navigate this profound intellectual adventure, I invite you to contemplate the timeless questions posed by these thinkers. What does it mean to know? What constitutes a good life? How should we understand our place in the universe? Philosophy challenges us to grapple with these inquiries and encourages us to think critically about our beliefs and assumptions. I look forward to your engagement as we delve deeper into this history, exploring the contributions of various philosophers and examining how their ideas connect to our lives today. Let us embark on this journey together, celebrating the enduring quest for wisdom that has characterized human thought across the ages. Let us turn our attention to the essence of philosophy itself, a field steeped in centuries of intellectual pursuit and inquiry. At its core, philosophy invites us to engage with some of the most profound questions that arise from our existence. What is the nature of reality? How do we acquire knowledge? What constitutes a good life? In exploring these questions, we can trace a rich tapestry of ideas and methodologies that underscore the importance of philosophical inquiry. Etymologically, the term philosophy derives from the Greek word philosophia, which translates to love of wisdom. This definition encapsulates the dual nature of philosophy, a blend of passionate intellectual curiosity and rigorous rational exploration. The pursuit of wisdom is not merely an academic endeavor, it is an emotional commitment to understanding the world and our place within it. This love of wisdom propels individuals to seek deeper insights, challenging the surface-level assumptions that often go unexamined in our daily lives. Philosophy is distinguished by its subject matter, which encompasses fundamental questions about existence, knowledge, values, reason, mind, and language. Unlike scientific disciplines that focus on specific phenomena or empirical data, philosophy examines the conceptual foundations and methodologies that underlie all forms of human inquiry. It delves into the principles that govern our understanding of the world and our interactions with it. This broad scope allows philosophers to question not only what we know, but also how we come to know it, fostering a deeper comprehension of the assumptions that guide our beliefs and actions. As we engage in this intellectual pursuit, philosophers employ a range of methods to navigate the complexities of these inquiries. Critical thinking and logical analysis are cornerstones of philosophical practice, enabling individuals to dissect arguments and evaluate the validity of ideas. Conceptual clarification is equally vital, as it ensures that the terms and concepts we use are well-defined and rigorously scrutinized. Philosophy values the process of questioning assumptions and challenging conventional wisdom, recognizing that many widely held beliefs may be based on unexamined premises. In this quest for understanding, philosophers develop systematic frameworks that help articulate their insights and facilitate discourse on complex issues. Furthermore, engaging in philosophical inquiry often involves constructing well-reasoned arguments and addressing counter-arguments, a process that fosters intellectual rigor. This dialectical approach not only enhances our understanding of specific questions, but also cultivates a respectful exchange of ideas, where differing viewpoints can be considered and debated earnestly. In essence, philosophy serves as a compass for navigating the intricate landscape of human thought. It encourages us to reflect critically on our beliefs and explore the foundations upon which they rest. Through the love of wisdom, we are invited to embark on a lifelong journey of exploration and discovery, one that not only enhances our understanding of the world, but also deepens our appreciation of the ever-evolving nature of human existence. As we continue our study of philosophy, let us keep in mind the importance of both emotional commitment and rational analysis in our pursuit of wisdom, for it is this dynamic interplay that truly enriches the philosophical endeavor. As we delve into the origins of Western philosophy, it is crucial to understand the context in which this transformative intellectual tradition emerged. The journey toward systematic thought began in a world dominated by myths and cosmologies that sought to explain the complexities of existence through narratives steeped in superstition and divine intervention. For centuries leading up to the 6th century BCE, human beings largely interpreted natural phenomena and their own affairs through a mythological lens. In this worldview, extraordinary events and the ebb and flow of life were attributed to the whims of gods and supernatural forces. These mythologies provided cultural cohesion and a shared sense of identity within communities, yet they lacked the framework for rigorous examination or systematic inquiry. They offered rich tales, but ultimately they did not provoke the kind of critical reflection that would later characterize philosophical thought. It was in this overarching mythological context that the so-called Greek miracle occurred, an extraordinary intellectual shift that emerged around the 6th century BCE, particularly in the Ionian Greek colonies, such as Miletus. This period marked a departure from reliance on divine explanation as thinkers began to seek natural, observable phenomena to account for the cosmos. Figures like Thales, Anaximander, and Anaximenes were at the forefront of this intellectual revolution, proposing that the universe could be understood through rational inquiry and empirical observation, rather than through myth or divine intervention. Thales, often considered the first philosopher, suggested that water is the fundamental substance underlying all existence, demonstrating a move toward naturalistic explanations of the world. This groundbreaking shift laid the groundwork for the development of philosophy as a discipline, a pursuit that emphasizes logical reasoning, observation, and conceptual analysis. It initiated a quest to understand the principles governing the natural world, ushering in what would become a hallmark of philosophical inquiry, the desire to ask questions and seek answers grounded in reason rather than tradition. The flourishing of philosophical thought was further enabled by the rise of the democratic city-states, particularly Athens. The political landscape of this era created an environment ripe for intellectual exploration and open debate. The participation of citizens in public discourse allowed for the exchange of ideas, fostering an atmosphere where questioning and dialogue became not only accepted but celebrated. The emergence of literacy during this time further empowered individuals to document and disseminate their thoughts, giving rise to a vibrant philosophical culture that encouraged innovation and critical engagement with ideas. Cultural exchange with other civilizations, particularly through trade and colonization, also contributed to this intellectual blossoming. Interaction with the Egyptians, Babylonians, and other societies exposed Greek thinkers to diverse ideas and practices, enriching their own philosophical inquiries. Thus, the origins of Western philosophy are deeply rooted in a gradual transition from mythological explanations of the world to a framework grounded in rational thought. This evolution set the stage for the classical philosophers who would follow, such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, each influential thinkers who would build upon this foundation and further explore the nature of reality, ethics, and knowledge. The heritage of this intellectual revolution remains crucial to our understanding of philosophy today, underscoring the enduring quest for wisdom that has characterized human thought for centuries. As we continue our exploration, let us keep in mind the interconnectedness of historical context and intellectual evolution that has shaped the trajectory of Western philosophy. As we turn our attention to the pre-Socratic philosophers, we encounter a pivotal group of thinkers who laid the foundation for Western philosophy through their revolutionary ideas and inquiries into the nature of existence. The pre-Socratics, active in the 6th and 5th centuries BCE, were primarily concerned with questions about the cosmos, existence, and the principles that underlie reality. Their efforts to explain the world through rational means rather than mythological narratives signified a profound shift in human thought. At the forefront of this intellectual movement is Thales of Miletus, often hailed as the first Western philosopher. Thales boldly proposed that water was the fundamental principle, or arche, of all things. This assertion was groundbreaking, as it represented not merely a physical substance, but an attempt to find a natural explanation for the cosmos without recourse to the caprices of mythology. Thales's willingness to seek a singular underlying principle that could unify the diverse phenomena of nature marked a pivotal intellectual shift, one that set the stage for subsequent inquiries into the nature of reality. His focus on observation and rational thinking opened the door for a generation of thinkers who would explore the world through similar lenses. Building upon Thales's work, Anaximander expanded the quest for the arche. Rather than identify a specific substance like water, he proposed a more abstract concept, the apeiron, often translated as the boundless or indefinite. Anaximander's thoughts reflected a deeper understanding of the complexities of existence, envisioning a substance that transcended the limitations of physical entities. His inquiries also ventured into the realms of early evolutionary ideas, suggesting that life evolved from simpler forms, thus hinting at a rudimentary understanding of biological processes. Additionally, Anaximander is credited with creating the first known map of the world, demonstrating not only his philosophical innovation, but also his commitment to grounding ideas in observation and empirical exploration. Heraclitus, another significant pre-Socratic philosopher, introduced a radically different perspective on the nature of reality. Known for his doctrine of panta rhei, or everything flows, Heraclitus emphasized the idea that change is the fundamental essence of existence. According to him, stability is an illusion. Everything is in a constant state of flux, and it is this very change that underlines the cosmos. His writings often embody cryptic aphorisms, which invite multiple interpretations and deeper contemplation. One of his central concepts, the logos, refers to a universal principle or order that governs the cosmos, suggesting that there is an underlying unity amidst the apparent chaos. Furthermore, Heraclitus's exploration of the unity of opposites, how contrasting forces coexist and are interdependent, continues to resonate within various philosophical traditions, influencing later thinkers like Hegel and existentialists, who grappled with the complexities of contradiction and flux in human existence. Together, these pre-Socratic philosophers laid the groundwork for subsequent philosophical inquiry by challenging traditional mythological explanations and seeking naturalistic interpretations of the world. Their legacies underscore the vital role of inquiry and critical thought in the quest for understanding, values that continue to inspire philosophical engagement today. As we explore the evolution of philosophical thought, let us appreciate how these early thinkers not only questioned the nature of existence, but also shaped the very methods of reasoning that would guide future generations of philosophers. Their contributions remain a testament to the enduring power of human curiosity and the relentless pursuit of wisdom in the face of uncertainty. As we continue our exploration of the history of philosophy, we arrive at a transformative figure whose contributions would profoundly reshape philosophical inquiry: Socrates. Living in Athens during the late 5th century BCE, Socrates marked a significant turning point in philosophy, often referred to as the Socratic turn. This transition reflects a deeper focus on human ethics, knowledge, and the nature of virtue, distinguishing Socratic philosophy from the cosmological interests of his pre-Socratic predecessors. At the heart of Socrates' revolutionary approach is what we now refer to as the Socratic method. This method involves systematic questioning designed to expose contradictions in beliefs and promote deeper understanding. Rather than delivering lectures or dogmatic assertions, Socrates engaged in dialectical exchanges with his interlocutors, prompting them to reflect critically on their views. Through this process of questioning, Socrates encouraged individuals to examine their assumptions, ultimately aiming to guide them toward greater self-awareness and clarity of thought. This method not only emphasizes the importance of dialogue in philosophical inquiry, but also establishes a model where knowledge is co-constructed rather than simply imparted. The Socratic method remains a key pedagogical tool in contemporary education, highlighting its enduring significance in fostering critical thinking. Socrates' philosophical inquiries shifted the focus from cosmological speculations to the realm of human affairs, particularly ethics. One of his most famous assertions is that the unexamined life is not worth living, signifying his belief in the necessity of self-reflection and moral introspection. Socrates sought definitions of ethical concepts such as justice, courage, and piety, challenging his contemporaries to define these virtues clearly. He argued that knowledge is intrinsically linked to virtue, proposing that wrongdoing arises from ignorance rather than malice. This idea, often encapsulated in the phrase "virtue is knowledge," suggests that individuals would act rightly if they truly understood what is good. Socratic ethics therefore emphasizes the importance of knowledge as a guiding principle for moral behavior, a notion that would reverberate throughout subsequent philosophical traditions. Despite his significant contributions, Socrates did not leave behind written works. Instead, his ideas were preserved through the dialogues of his student, Plato. This oral tradition ensures that his teachings and methods influenced generations of thinkers. Socrates' life and philosophy came to a tragic climax with his trial and subsequent execution. Accused of corrupting the youth of Athens and impiety, a challenge to the city's established religious practices, Socrates chose to face his death with unwavering resolve, embodying the principles of intellectual integrity and moral courage. His willingness to stand for his beliefs in the face of dogmatism and societal pressure transformed him into a philosophical martyr, a symbol of the quest for truth and the importance of critical inquiry. In the annals of philosophy, Socrates occupies a pivotal role, serving as a bridge between the pre-Socratic inquiry into the cosmos and the later explorations of his disciples, particularly Plato and Aristotle. His commitment to questioning, ethical living, and the pursuit of wisdom laid the groundwork for subsequent developments in philosophy, ethics, and political thought. As we reflect on the legacy of Socrates, we are reminded of the profound impact that one individual's dedication to truth and dialogue can have on the collective intellectual endeavor, inspiring countless others to dare to ask difficult questions and seek authentic understanding in their own lives. It is this characteristic of philosophy, its capacity to provoke thought, challenge assumptions, and inspire ethical living, that continues to resonate today, keeping the spirit of Socratic inquiry alive in modern discourse. As we delve into the contributions of Plato, one of the most pivotal figures in the history of Western philosophy, we encounter a thinker whose ideas would shape the philosophical landscape for centuries to come. Born around 428 BCE in Athens, Plato was profoundly influenced by the teachings of Socrates and went on to develop a comprehensive philosophical system that addressed metaphysics, ethics, politics, and epistemology. One of Plato's most significant contributions is his theory of forms. He proposed that beyond the physical world, which is perceptible and changeable, lies a realm of perfect eternal forms or ideas. According to Plato, these forms represent the true essence of all things. They are abstract, unchanging, and perfect archetypes of the objects we encounter in the material world. For instance, While a beautiful painting is merely an imperfect representation of the form of beauty itself, true knowledge involves grasping the essence of this form rather than becoming fixated on its imperfect manifestations. This distinction between the imperfect physical world and the perfect world of forms becomes a cornerstone of Plato's metaphysical thought and influences how he approached questions of knowledge and reality. Plato's philosophical pursuits also led him to establish the Academy in Athens, which is often regarded as the first Western institution of higher learning. Founded around 387 BCE, the Academy provided a space for dialogue, inquiry, and the pursuit of knowledge, emphasizing subjects such as mathematics and dialectical reasoning. Plato believed that these disciplines were essential pathways to understanding the deeper truths of existence and the forms. The Academy became a historical milestone in the development of educational institutions, and its influence continued to shape philosophical and scholarly institutions for centuries. In addition to his contributions to metaphysics and education, Plato also made significant strides in political philosophy. His seminal work, The Republic, presents a vision of the ideal state governed by philosopher kings, wise rulers who possess knowledge of the forms, and thus are best equipped to lead the populace toward a just society. Through the lens of justice, The Republic explores the interplay of knowledge, morality, and political governance. One of the most enduring aspects of this dialogue is the allegory of the cave, which illustrates the philosopher's journey from ignorance to enlightenment. In this allegory, prisoners chained inside a dark cave see only shadows of objects passing by and mistake these shadows for reality. It is only when one prisoner escapes the cave and comes to understand the world outside, seeing the sun and the true forms of objects, that he realizes the nature of reality. This allegory underscores Plato's belief in the transformative power of knowledge and the philosopher's role in guiding others toward understanding the truth. Central to Plato's philosophical approach is his dialogical method, which preserves and extends Socratic inquiry by presenting philosophical ideas in the form of dialogues. By engaging characters in conversation, Plato encourages readers to actively think through the ideas presented, rather than merely absorbing doctrine passively. This method invites philosophical exploration, fostering an environment where questions can be raised, assumptions challenged, and deeper truths sought. Plato's legacy is profound, stretching across multiple domains of human thought, including ethics, political theory, metaphysics, epistemology, and education. His innovative theories and methods laid a foundation that would influence future philosophers, including his own student Aristotle and many others who followed. The questions he raised and the frameworks he established continue to resonate in contemporary philosophical discourse, serving as a reminder of philosophy's enduring relevance in our quest to understand the world and our place within it. As we reflect on Plato's contributions, we are called to engage with our own philosophical inquiries, harnessing the power of dialogue and critical reflection to navigate the complexities of existence. As we delve into the philosophical contributions of Aristotle, we encounter a figure whose influence on Western thought is both vast and enduring. Born in 384 BCE in Stagira, Aristotle became a student at Plato's Academy, yet he would go on to develop a radically different approach to philosophy that would diverge significantly from that of his teacher. At the core of Aristotle's philosophy is an empirical approach that emphasizes careful observation of the natural world. Unlike Plato, who sought knowledge through abstract forms, Aristotle grounded his understanding in the study of concrete reality. His extensive biological investigations of hundreds of species exemplify this commitment to empirical research. He meticulously observed and classified various forms of life, laying the groundwork for future biological sciences. Through this empirical lens, Aristotle sought to understand the principles governing the natural world, believing that knowledge arises from experience and direct interaction with the phenomena around us. Aristotle also made significant contributions to the field of logic, which he systematically developed in his work, the Organon. In this foundational text, Aristotle established the principles of syllogistic reasoning, presenting structures for valid arguments and rules of inference that would dominate logical theory for nearly 2 millennia. His systematic approach to logic provided a methodological foundation that influenced not only philosophy, but also all fields of inquiry, from mathematics to the natural sciences. The clarity and rigor of Aristotle's logical framework set a standard that continued to inform scholarly pursuits throughout history, helping to shape rational discourse and critical thinking. Moreover, Aristotle sought to create a comprehensive philosophical system that integrated diverse fields of study, including physics, metaphysics, ethics, politics, psychology, and aesthetics. His worldview was distinctly teleological, positing that everything in nature strives toward an inherent purpose or end, known as telos. While he recognized natural phenomena as dynamic and subject to change, he believed that underlying these changes were essential natures that directed the development and growth of entities toward their natural goals. For instance, an acorn holds the potentiality to become an oak tree, and understanding its telos is fundamental to grasping its nature. In ethics, Aristotle proposed a virtue-centered approach, evident in his work Nicomachean Ethics, where he emphasized the concept of the golden mean, the idea that moral virtue lies between two extremes. His exploration of politics in politics outlines the significance of community and the role of citizens in achieving the good life, reflecting his belief that human beings are inherently social creatures. Aristotle's lasting influence on various cultures and intellectual traditions is remarkable. Through the translations and commentaries on his works by Islamic and Jewish scholars during the medieval period, his ideas profoundly shaped various branches of thought, including religious philosophy. Philosophers such as Avicenna and Maimonides drew heavily on Aristotle's insights to reconcile their respective faiths with reason. With the Renaissance's revival of interest in classical Greek philosophy, Aristotle's systematic approach also played a crucial role in the development of European science, impacting figures such as Galileo and Kepler. Aristotle's impact on Western educational institutions cannot be overstated. His methodologies became integral to the development of curricula and have influenced teaching practices across centuries. The emphasis on empirical observation, logical reasoning, and interdisciplinary study found in Aristotle's work became foundational elements of the academic tradition that persists to this day. In summary, Aristotle stands as a monumental figure in the history of philosophy, having contributed fundamentally to a wide array of fields. His empirical approach, logical innovations, and comprehensive philosophical system not only advanced human understanding in numerous domains, but also laid the groundwork for future generations. As we reflect on Aristotle's contributions, we are reminded of the importance of inquiry, critical thinking, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge, values that remain at the heart of philosophical exploration and education in our contemporary world. As we turn our attention to the Hellenistic period of philosophy, we discover a rich array of thought that developed in the wake of Socratic and Aristotelian traditions. This era, spanning roughly from the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BCE to the Roman conquest of the Greek world, saw the emergence of several influential schools of philosophy, each offering distinct perspectives on how to attain a good life in a rapidly changing world. Three of the most prominent schools from this period are Stoicism, Epicureanism, and Skepticism. Stoicism, founded by Zeno of Citium, emerged as a robust philosophical system advocating that true happiness is achieved by accepting the natural order of the universe and living virtuously in accordance with reason. Central to Stoic thought is the idea that we should align ourselves with the rational structure of the cosmos, recognizing that everything unfolds according to a larger divine rationality, logos. Stoics emphasized emotional self-discipline and the importance of duty, teaching that it is essential to distinguish between what we can control, our thoughts and actions, and what we cannot, external events and the actions of others. Notable Stoic philosophers such as Epictetus and Seneca expanded upon these principles, offering practical guidance on how to navigate the trials of life. Epictetus, who famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters," exemplified the Stoic belief that our responses to circumstances, rather than the circumstances themselves, determine our inner peace. This focus on resilience and the mastery of one's emotions has continued to resonate throughout history, influencing various aspects of modern psychology and self-help philosophy. In contrast to Stoicism, Epicureanism, founded by Epicurus, proposed a different path to happiness, centered around the pursuit of ataraxia, or tranquility, through the cultivation of moderate pleasures and freedom from fear. Epicurean philosophy sought to demystify the human experience by encouraging individuals to seek simple pleasures, cultivate friendships, and engage in intellectual pursuits. Contrary to popular misconceptions, Epicureans did not advocate for hedonistic excess or indulgence. Instead, they emphasized the importance of moderation and the idea that the greatest pleasures often stem from simple joys and the absence of pain. In Epicurus's philosophical garden, followers engaged in discussions that underscored the value of intellectual companionship and the life of the mind. By addressing human fears, particularly the fear of death and the divine, Epicurus encouraged individuals to enjoy a life characterized by serenity, rationality, and ethical living. The school of skepticism, initiated by Pyrrho, offered a contrasting approach, questioning the possibility of attaining certain knowledge. Pyrrho argued that we should practice epoch, the suspension of judgment regarding the true nature of things. This philosophical stance encouraged individuals to refrain from asserting dogmatic beliefs, as such assertions often lead to conflict and distress. The teachings of Pyrrho laid the groundwork for later academic skeptics like Carneades, who developed more complex arguments against dogmatic claims to knowledge, advocating instead for a probabilistic approach. Carneades argued that since our perceptions are often subjective and fallible, we should rely on probabilities rather than claims of certainty. This skeptical inquiry prompted a rich dialogue about the nature of knowledge, highlighting the limitations of human perception and the importance of open-mindedness. Collectively, these Hellenistic schools of thought reflect the philosophical responses to the tumultuous social and political changes of their time. Stoicism, Epicureanism, and skepticism each provided individuals with frameworks for navigating life's complexities and challenges, emphasizing the importance of inner peace, ethical living, and intellectual humility. Their legacies endure in contemporary philosophical conversations, where questions about happiness, knowledge, and ethics continue to resonate. As we reflect upon the teachings of the Hellenistic philosophers, we are reminded of the varied pathways to wisdom they offered, each inviting us to consider how we might cultivate a meaningful and fulfilling life in the face of uncertainty and change. They encourage us to engage not only with the world around us, but also with our internal landscapes, fostering a balance between reason, emotion, and ethical considerations. As we explore the landscape of Roman philosophy, we observe a unique development that primarily involves the adaptation and integration of Greek philosophical traditions into the Roman context. Roman philosophers often sought to address practical concerns related to governance, ethics, and personal conduct, providing insights that remained relevant for centuries beyond the fall of the Roman Empire. In this regard, key figures such as Cicero, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Plotinus exemplify the richness of Roman philosophical thought. Cicero, a Roman statesman and philosopher, played a pivotal role in adapting Greek philosophy for Roman audiences. He was particularly instrumental in popularizing Stoicism and academic skepticism, translating complex ideas into a language and style that resonated with his contemporaries. Cicero emphasized the relationship between philosophy and public life, arguing that philosophical principles should inform ethical governance. In works such as De Officiis, on duties, he explored moral obligations in the context of civic responsibility, articulating the importance of virtue in both individual conduct and public service. Cicero's adaptation of Greek philosophical ideas allowed him to bridge the gap between theoretical inquiry and practical application, making philosophy accessible and relevant to Roman citizens. Seneca, another prominent figure, was a Stoic philosopher, dramatist, and advisor to Emperor Nero. His writings include a series of influential moral essays and letters that convey Stoic principles in a personal and relatable manner. In works such as Letters to Lucilius, Seneca reflects on topics such as the nature of happiness, the value of friendship, and the importance of resilience in the face of adversity. His philosophy emphasizes emotional self-discipline, rationality, and the acceptance of one's fate, a reflection of his Stoic beliefs. Seneca's writings resonate not only with the Stoic ideals of enduring hardship and cultivating virtue, but also with the struggles of individuals in navigating the complexities of life, making his insights timeless and applicable across various contexts. The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius represent a pinnacle of Roman Stoicism. As a philosopher-emperor, Aurelius provides a unique perspective, merging the responsibilities of leadership with an introspective examination of duty and resilience. In his Meditations, he reflects on his role as a ruler and the challenges he faces, emphasizing the importance of inner strength, humility, and moral integrity. His writings exemplify Stoic ideals as he contemplates the transitory nature of existence and the necessity of accepting the events that unfold, focusing on how one can respond virtuously despite external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius's reflections not only serve as a personal guide to ethical living, but also encapsulate the Stoic belief in striving for a life of rationality, virtue, and fulfillment. In contrast to the Stoic emphasis on ethics and personal conduct, Plotinus represents a significant departure from earlier Roman philosophical thought through his contributions to Neoplatonism. His mystical philosophy emphasizes the one, conceived as the ultimate transcendent reality that exists beyond being and intellect. Plotinus proposed that the material world is an emanation of the One, and individuals can achieve spiritual ascent through contemplation and philosophical inquiry. His ideas introduced a more mystical dimension to philosophy, encouraging followers to seek union with the divine and to participate in the transcendent reality through introspection and intellectual exercise. Plotinus's influence extended well beyond the Roman period, significantly impacting later Christian and Islamic thought, where concepts of the divine and the nature of reality continued to evolve. In summary, Roman philosophy is characterized by its rich engagement with Greek thought, integrating and adapting it to address the practical concerns of governance, ethics, and personal conduct. Philosophers such as Cicero, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Plotinus demonstrate the dynamic interplay between philosophical inquiry and the complexities of public and personal life. Their writings remain accessible and relevant, inviting subsequent generations to reflect on the nature of virtue, duty, and the human experience. By emphasizing application over theoretical innovation, Roman philosophers laid a foundational legacy that has endured through the ages, reminding us of the enduring relevance of philosophical thought in navigating the challenges of life. Their emphasis on ethical living, emotional resilience, and the quest for higher understanding continues to inspire and guide individuals in the ongoing pursuit of wisdom. As we embark on an exploration of medieval philosophy, we find ourselves in a period marked by a profound interaction between faith and reason. During this era, which spanned roughly from the 5th to the late 15th century, philosophical inquiry was deeply intertwined with religious belief, particularly as Christianity solidified its influence across Europe. The thinkers of this age sought to synthesize philosophical understanding with theological doctrine, resulting in a rich and complex philosophical landscape that would shape the trajectory of Western thought. At the heart of medieval philosophy is the theme of faith and reason, emphasizing the potential harmony between these two domains of human understanding. This synthesis can be traced back to the Augustinian tradition, initiated by Augustine of Hippo, who emphasized the importance of divine illumination in the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. Augustine contended that human reason, while valuable, was ultimately dependent on God's grace for true understanding. He posited that faith provides the necessary foundation upon which reason can build, thus inviting believers to seek knowledge through both intellectual inquiry and spiritual revelation. Augustine's works, particularly Confessions and the City of God, reflect his conviction that understanding the divine requires introspection as well as philosophical contemplation, paving the way for later thinkers who would grapple with the relationship between faith and reason. A significant development in medieval philosophy was the Aristotelian revival, a reintroduction of Aristotle's works that had been preserved and expanded upon by Islamic philosophers such as Avicenna and Averroes. These scholars played a crucial role in interpreting and transmitting Aristotle's ideas to the Latin West, leading to a renewed interest in his logic, metaphysics, ethics, and natural philosophy. The emergence of these texts in the 12th century spurred a reawakening of philosophical inquiry and encouraged a rigorous intellectual environment in which scholars sought to reconcile Aristotelian thought with Christian theology. This period also saw the rise of scholasticism, a systematic approach to philosophical and theological inquiry that emerged in the context of medieval universities. Scholastic thinkers aimed to address and resolve apparent contradictions between faith and reason. They employed dialectical reasoning, a method of argumentation that involved posing questions, articulating various viewpoints, and ultimately arriving at synthesized conclusions. This rigorous methodology found expression in the works of scholars such as Peter Abelard, Anselm of Canterbury, and Hugh of St. Victor. Among the most prominent figures of this era was Thomas Aquinas, whose extensive writings exemplified the synthesis of Aristotelian philosophy with Christian doctrine. Living in the 13th century, Aquinas sought to demonstrate that faith and reason were not in opposition, but were complementary paths to truth. His monumental work, Summa Theologica, addresses the relationships between God, humanity, and the natural world, systematically laying out arguments for the existence of God, the nature of moral virtue, and the role of divine grace. In this text, Aquinas asserts that human reason can lead to a certain understanding of God and moral truth, but that revelation is necessary for a complete understanding of divine matters. His synthesis established a framework that would dominate medieval thought and continue to influence philosophical, theological, and ethical discussions for centuries. Throughout the medieval period, philosophy flourished in monasteries, cathedral schools, and the early universities that began to emerge across Europe. This environment allowed for the interplay of theological inquiry with the burgeoning disciplines of science, ethics, and metaphysics. Philosophy, often regarded as the handmaiden to theology, served to support and elucidate theological truths, reinforcing the belief that understanding divine principles requires rigorous intellectual engagement. In conclusion, medieval philosophy represents a remarkable era characterized by the synthesis of faith and reason, particularly through the works of thinkers like Augustine and Aquinas. Their contributions underline the importance of seeking knowledge through both philosophical inquiry and divine revelation, establishing a legacy that profoundly influenced later philosophical traditions. The integration of Aristotelian thought and the structured dialectical approach of scholasticism provided a foundation for future Western philosophy, showing how philosophy could both engage with and inform theological understanding. As we reflect on the significance of medieval philosophy, we recognize not only its historical context, but also its enduring influence on contemporary discussions concerning the interplay between faith, reason, and the quest for wisdom. The Renaissance, spanning the 14th to the 16th centuries, marked a profound intellectual shift in Europe, characterized by the revival and revitalization of classical learning. This era, often referred to as the Renaissance humanism movement, saw scholars and thinkers rediscover ancient texts and ideals, placing renewed emphasis on human potential, dignity, and achievement. Rejecting the medieval scholasticism that had dominated the preceding centuries, Renaissance humanists sought to cultivate a more eloquent and comprehensive approach to knowledge that reflected the complexities of human experience. Central to this movement was the motto ad fontes, meaning to the sources, which emphasized the importance of returning to and studying original Greek and Roman texts, rather than relying on the medieval commentaries that had come to dominate intellectual discourse. Scholars such as Petrarch, often considered the father of humanism, laid the groundwork for this revival. Petrarch's passionate love for the literature of antiquity inspired him to seek out lost works and advocate for a return to classical ideals of beauty, wisdom, and civic virtue. Erasmus further exemplified Renaissance humanism through his critical examination of Christian texts and traditions. His work In Praise of Folly employed satire to critique contemporary society and the Church, promoting a philosophy that underscored the importance of moral integrity and the development of oneself through education. Erasmus's emphasis on eloquence and the study of classical languages allowed for a wider audience to engage with the ancient philosophers, thereby spreading humanist ideals across Europe. Pico della Mirandola, a notable figure of Renaissance humanism, encapsulated the humanist perspective on human potential with his famous work, Oration on the Dignity of Man. In this text, Pico proclaimed that human beings possessed the unique ability to shape their own destiny and choose their paths, highlighting an inherent dignity and worth that transcends mere existence. His ideas reflected the belief that humans, as products of divine creation, have the capacity to achieve greatness, an idea that resonates with both the Renaissance's values and its philosophical heritage from antiquity. The Renaissance humanists' recovery of ancient philosophical traditions, especially Platonism, Stoicism, and Epicureanism, significantly diversified the intellectual landscape of Europe. Platonism, with its emphasis on ideal forms and the pursuit of higher truths, dovetailed with humanist thought, encouraging individuals to seek the good life through knowledge and self-reflection. Similarly, Stoic teachings on ethics and virtue provided practical guidance on how to live a life in harmony with nature and reason, appealing to those seeking moral grounding in an increasingly complex world. Meanwhile, Epicureanism's focus on the pursuit of ataraxia and the enjoyment of simple pleasures offered a refreshing counterpoint to ascetic ideals and encouraged a balanced approach to life. Renaissance humanism thus laid the groundwork for modern secular thought, advancing the idea that human excellence serves divine purposes without diminishing the importance of human agency and intellect. Humanists believed that the cultivation of knowledge, art, and individual potential contributed to the greater good of society and aligned with the divine order, ultimately enriching both the individual and the community. In conclusion, the Renaissance humanism movement represents a significant turning point in the intellectual history of Europe. By emphasizing the revival of classical learning and the inherent dignity of human beings, figures like Petrarch, Erasmus, and Pico della Mirandola helped forge a new cultural and philosophical paradigm. Their contributions fostered a spirit of inquiry and exploration, that would lay the groundwork for subsequent developments in Western thought, influencing literature, art, politics, and philosophy well into the modern era. The impact of Renaissance humanism endures, reminding us of the enduring importance of human potential, the value of wisdom, and the pursuit of knowledge in shaping our understanding of the world and our place within it. The philosophical discourse in the early modern period is marked by a significant debate between rationalism and empiricism, two schools of thought that offer contrasting perspectives on the origins and nature of human knowledge. Each movement has given rise to influential thinkers who have shaped the landscape of philosophy and sought to address fundamental questions regarding how we know what we know. Rationalism, associated with philosophers such as René Descartes, Baruch Spinoza, and Gottfried Leibniz, posits that certain knowledge is accessible through reason and intellect alone, independent of sensory experience. This belief in the primacy of reason can be traced back to Descartes, who famously employed a method of systematic doubt to strip away all beliefs that could be called into question. His declaration, cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, established the existence of the thinking self as the foundational certainty upon which knowledge could be built. Descartes' quest for a secure epistemological basis represents a hallmark of rationalist thought, emphasizing the role of clear and distinct ideas that can be known through rational reflection. Baruch Spinoza further advanced rationalism by developing a geometric approach to understanding the universe, famously identifying God with nature. In his work Ethics, Spinoza articulated a view of reality that replaced traditional theological notions of a personal God with a pantheistic understanding of divinity inherent in the natural world. He utilized rigorous deductive reasoning to demonstrate how all things are interconnected and how human beings find their place within the larger cosmos. Gottfried Leibniz, another key figure in rationalism, introduced the concept of monads, which he described as simple, indivisible substances that compose reality. Each monad reflects the entire universe from its unique perspective, encapsulating Leibniz's belief in a harmonious, pre-established order designed by God. Through his mathematical contributions, particularly in calculus, Leibniz emphasized the power of reason and logic as essential tools for comprehending the world. In contrast, empiricism asserts that knowledge derives primarily from sensory experience, challenging the rationalist claim to a priori knowledge. Prominent empiricists such as John Locke, George Berkeley, and David Hume argued that human understanding is rooted in the data gathered through the senses. Locke famously posited that the mind begins as a tabula rasa or blank slate, suggesting that we acquire knowledge through experiences that gradually shape our understanding of the world. He rejected the notion of innate ideas, emphasizing that all concepts originate from sensory experiences and reflection upon those experiences. George Berkeley pushed empiricism further with his radical claim that to be is to be perceived. He contended that material objects have no existence independent of our perceptions. Rather, they exist only as ideas within minds. Berkeley's idealism asserts that everything we know, including the physical world, is contingent upon being observed by consciousness, challenging the assumptions about the independence of the external world. David Hume, the most skeptical of the empiricists, questioned the grounds of causality and induction. He argued that our beliefs about cause and effect are not derived from rational insight, but from our habitual experiences of events following one another. Hume's skepticism pushed the limits of empiricism by asserting that we cannot rationally justify our expectations for future experiences based on past occurrences. This challenge to the foundations of science and rational theology raised significant questions about the nature and limits of human understanding, suggesting that we can only know what we can observe, and that certainty and knowledge may be elusive. The interplay between rationalism and empiricism has shaped modern philosophy in profound ways, establishing foundational ideas that continue to influence contemporary thought. Rationalists emphasize the power of reason and the innate structures of thought, while empiricists highlight the importance of experience and observation as the basis of knowledge. This dialectic has led to the development of various philosophical movements, including critical rationalism and constructive empiricism, which seek to reconcile the insights of both traditions. In conclusion, the debate between rationalism and empiricism represents one of the most significant bifurcations in the history of Western philosophy. It invites us to consider how we acquire knowledge and challenges us to reflect on the relationship between reason and experience in our understanding of reality. The contributions of figures like Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz, Locke, Berkeley, and Hume continue to resonate, as their inquiries into the nature of knowledge remain central to ongoing discussions in epistemology, science, and philosophy. Their exploration of reason and experience invites us to engage with the complexities of our own understanding, prompting us to navigate the rich tapestry of human knowledge with both intellectual rigor and empirical awareness. The Enlightenment, often referred to as the Age of Reason, marked a transformative period in the 18th century, characterized by an intellectual movement that championed rational inquiry, scientific exploration, and a critical stance toward traditional authority. This era was defined by a collective belief that through reason and education, humanity could advance, improve society, and promote the welfare of individuals. Enlightenment thinkers sought to dethrone superstition and dogma, emphasizing the importance of empirical evidence and rational thought in every aspect of human endeavor. At the heart of Enlightenment thought was a commitment to science and empirical understanding. Figures such as Isaac Newton and Francis Bacon laid the groundwork for scientific methodologies that emphasized observation, experimentation, and reasoning. This emphasis on the scientific method catalyzed a broader skepticism toward religious dogma and unquestioned adherence to tradition, encouraging intellectuals to challenge established beliefs and norms. The Enlightenment cultivated an atmosphere where questioning was viewed not merely as an act of dissent, but as a path to progress and enlightenment. Among the pivotal figures of this era was Immanuel Kant, whose revolutionary philosophy attempted to bridge the divide between rationalism and empiricism. In his seminal work, Critique of Pure Reason, Kant meticulously examined the limits and capabilities of human understanding. He argued that while empirical experience is crucial for acquiring knowledge, the mind is not merely a passive receiver of sensory information. Rather, it actively structures perception through innate categories and cognitive frameworks. Kant introduced the idea that our understanding of the world is shaped by both external experiences and the internal faculties of the mind. He famously distinguished between the phenomenal world, which is shaped by our perceptions, and the noumenal realm, which represents objective reality that exists independently of our senses. This critical philosophy not only influenced subsequent epistemology, but also laid the foundation for contemporary discussions on metaphysics, ethics, and aesthetics. The Enlightenment also saw significant developments in political philosophy, as thinkers such as Montesquieu, Voltaire, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau articulated theories of governance that emphasized the importance of natural rights, social contracts, and checks on power. Montesquieu's The Spirit of the Laws advocated for the separation of powers within government, arguing that this structure was essential to prevent tyranny and safeguard liberty. Voltaire championed civil liberties, particularly freedom of speech and religious tolerance, using wit and satire to critique institutional dogmas and advocate for enlightened governance. Rousseau, in works like The Social Contract, posited that legitimate political authority derives from the consent of the governed, emphasizing the idea of collective sovereignty and the role of the general will. These Enlightenment ideas profoundly influenced political movements, ultimately shaping the course of the American and French revolutions. The emphasis on individual rights and the questioning of monarchical authority challenged the status quo, inspiring new political formations based on democratic principles. Enlightenment thinkers articulated a vision of government that prioritized equality, justice, and the protection of human rights, all pivotal concepts that reshaped the political landscape of the Western world. In conclusion, the Enlightenment represents a significant moment in history where reason and inquiry became the cornerstones of intellectual and political life. The shift toward rational thought, the integration of scientific methods, and the development of political philosophies that emphasized rights and democracy fundamentally transformed the dynamics of European society and beyond. Thinkers like Kant, Montesquieu, Voltaire, and Rousseau challenged existing paradigms, paving the way for modern secular thought and democratic governance. Their legacies continue to resonate today, urging us to reflect on the power of reason, the importance of questioning authority, and the potential for human progress through the application of critical thinking and dialogue. As we examine the Enlightenment, we are reminded of the enduring relevance of these ideas in our ongoing pursuit of knowledge, justice, and understanding in an ever-evolving world. Following the profound intellectual shift initiated by Immanuel Kant's critical philosophy, German idealism emerged as a powerful movement in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, profoundly influencing modern philosophy. Though the leading figures of this movement, Kant, Johann Gottlieb Fichte, Friedrich Wilhelm Joseph Schelling, and Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, developed distinct systems of thought. They all shared a fundamental conviction that consciousness shapes reality rather than merely reflecting an external world. Kant's contribution to this movement is encapsulated in his concept of transcendental idealism. Kant posited that while knowledge begins with experience, our understanding of that experience is processed through the innate structures of the mind. This means that we can never know things as they are in themselves, the noumenal world. Instead, we only know them as they appear to us through the categories of our understanding, the phenomenal world. His work laid the groundwork for later idealist thinkers who sought to extend and build upon his insights, particularly the notion that our mental frameworks fundamentally shape reality. Building on Kant's ideas, Johann Gottlieb Fichte developed what is known as subjective idealism. Fichte emphasized the role of the self or the ego in constituting reality. He asserted that the self posits or creates its own reality through its activity and decisions. In Fichte's view, the ego is not just a passive perceiver, it is an active creator of experience and the world, leading to a form of idealism where the self's awareness and will shape the nature of existence itself. Friedrich Wilhelm Joseph Schelling furthered this idealist tradition with his identity philosophy, where he sought to reconcile the opposition between mind and nature. Schelling proposed that the ultimate reality is a unity that encompasses both the mental and the natural. He saw nature as the visible expression of the absolute, providing a deep interconnection between the consciousness of the individual and the world around them. This idea emphasized that both spirit and nature are manifestations of a singular reality, paving the way for a holistic understanding of existence. The culmination of German idealism came with Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, whose philosophy of absolute idealism represented a radical departure from earlier formulations. Hegel proposed that reality is fundamentally rational and evolves through a dialectical process characterized by the interaction of opposing ideas, commonly referred to as thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. In this process, contradictions are reconciled, leading to higher levels of understanding and development. Hegel viewed history itself as an unfolding narrative of the development of spirit, Geist, where the progression of events represents the self-realization of spirit moving toward greater freedom and self-consciousness. For Hegel, the dialectical method was not merely a tool for logical explanation, it was a fundamental dynamic driving the entirety of existence, with historical events reflecting this rational development. Hegel's ambitious metaphysical project, particularly his view of history as the progressive realization of freedom, has had far-reaching implications, influencing not only philosophy, but also social and political thought. His ideas laid the groundwork for subsequent movements such as Marxism, which adapted Hegelian dialectics to critique economic and social structures, and existentialism, which would grapple with themes of subjectivity and agency in a world that Hegel had conceptualized as ultimately rational and interconnected. In summary, German idealism represents a landmark in philosophical thought, exploring the profound interconnections between consciousness, reality, and self-consciousness. Each thinker contributed to a nuanced understanding of the idealist perspective, culminating in Hegel's intricate system that continues to resonate across various fields of inquiry. The movement's emphasis on the active role of consciousness in shaping reality has enriched philosophical dialogues concerning ethics, politics, metaphysics, and the nature of human existence. As we reflect on the legacy of German idealism, we recognize its lasting influence on contemporary philosophy, challenging us to consider the interplay between thought, reality, and self in our ongoing quest for understanding. The 19th century was marked by significant philosophical developments that diverged sharply from the rationalism and idealism of earlier thinkers. This century saw the emergence of existentialism, radical critiques of established norms, and the materialist analysis of society. Key figures such as Søren Kierkegaard, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Karl Marx each contributed to a diverse intellectual landscape that challenged prevailing assumptions and laid the groundwork for modern philosophical discourse. Søren Kierkegaard, often regarded as the father of existentialism, rejected the abstract philosophical systems championed by his predecessors in favor of an emphasis on the concrete individual's existence and subjective truth. Kierkegaard's works focus on the individual's experience of anxiety, despair, and authenticity. He believed that true understanding arises from personal experience rather than detached objective reasoning. A central concept in Kierkegaard's thought is the leap of faith, which refers to the individual's decision to embrace belief, particularly in the face of uncertainty. In this context, faith becomes a deeply personal endeavor that cannot be dictated by empirical evidence or rational argument. Kierkegaard's exploration of these themes laid essential foundations for later existentialists such as Jean-Paul Sartre and Martin Heidegger, while he maintained a distinctly religious framework that emphasized the individual's relationship with God. In stark contrast to this, Friedrich Nietzsche provided a radical critique of traditional morality and metaphysics, famously proclaiming that God is dead. Nietzsche's assertion reflected his belief that the decline of religious and metaphysical certainties led to a crisis of values in the modern world. He challenged the moral foundations of Western civilization, urging individuals to move beyond conventional ethical frameworks. Nietzsche introduced several key concepts, including the will to power, which refers to the fundamental driving force behind human behavior and ambition, and eternal recurrence, the idea that life is cyclic, and that individuals must live as if they would have to relive their choices endlessly. His notion of the Übermensch or overman depicted an ideal individual who creates his own values and transcends societal norms. Nietzsche's aphoristic and literary style broke with traditional philosophical writing, offering poignant reflections and provocative assertions that challenged readers to rethink their beliefs and values. Karl Marx, meanwhile, developed a philosophy grounded in historical materialism, an approach that emphasizes the role of material conditions and class struggle in shaping society and human experience. Marx's analysis of capitalism identified how economic systems produce exploitation and alienation, particularly for the working class. He argued that capitalist societies inherently prioritize profit over human well-being, leading to social inequality and systematic oppression. Unlike philosophers who focused on theoretical discourse, Marx explicitly aimed to transform society through revolutionary action. His works, including the Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital, called for class consciousness and political mobilization, envisioning a future where the working class would overthrow the capitalist system and establish a more equitable society. Together, these thinkers exemplify the diversity and dynamism of 19th-century philosophy. Kierkegaard's explorations of individual existence and faith laid the groundwork for existentialism, while Nietzsche's radical critique offered a new understanding of morality and human potential. In contrast, Marx's historical materialism grounded philosophical inquiry in social conditions, pushing for pragmatic change over theoretical contemplation. Ultimately, the philosophy of the 19th century reflects an era of profound questioning and reevaluation of established norms. By engaging with the complexities of existence, morality, and society, these thinkers paved the way for later philosophical and cultural movements, shaping the course of modern thought. Their legacies endure, inviting us to contemplate the intricacies of human experience in an ever-evolving world, where individual agency, value creation, and societal transformation remain critical themes in our ongoing quest for understanding. American pragmatism, emerging as a distinctive philosophical tradition in the late 19th century, reflects core American cultural values such as practicality, pluralism, and a focus on lived experience. Distinct from earlier philosophical movements, pragmatism emphasizes the practical utility of ideas rather than their correspondence to an independent metaphysical reality. This innovative approach has had significant implications for various fields, including education, law, science, and religion. Charles Sanders Peirce, often regarded as the founder of pragmatism, developed the foundational principles of this tradition through his exploration of the pragmatic maxim. Peirce asserted that the meaning of a concept lies in its practical consequences. We can better understand ideas by examining their effects on our experience and actions. This principle not only established pragmatism as a rigorous philosophical methodology, but also influenced fields such as logic and semiotics, the study of signs and symbols. Peirce's commitment to scientific inquiry and the scientific method further solidified the relevance of pragmatism, encouraging thinkers to focus on hypotheses, experimentation, and empirical verification. His work laid the groundwork for later pragmatists who would expand on these ideas in their own domains. William James, a prominent figure in the development of pragmatism, applied its insights to a broader array of subjects, including psychology, religion, and ethics. James is perhaps best known for his doctrine of the will to believe, which argues that it is permissible to hold beliefs in the absence of sufficient evidence when such beliefs serve a practical purpose or yield beneficial outcomes. This perspective emphasized the importance of lived experience and the functionality of beliefs rather than adherence to absolute truths. Additionally, James's concept of radical empiricism expanded the understanding of knowledge to include both sensory experiences and the relations between experiences, proposing that our understanding of reality is shaped by our interactions with it. Through his writings, James made philosophy accessible and relevant to everyday life, advocating for an approach that recognizes the complexities and nuances of human experience. John Dewey further developed pragmatism in the context of educational and social philosophy through his idea of instrumentalism. Dewey viewed ideas as tools that help us solve problems, emphasizing the practical application of thought rather than the search for immutable truth. His educational philosophy advocated for experiential learning, engaging students actively in their education rather than treating them as passive recipients of knowledge. Dewey believed that education should nurture critical thinking, creativity, and democratic engagement. His focus on participatory democracy and progressive reform reflected a commitment to applying pragmatic principles to social issues, advocating for a society where citizens actively contribute to the common good and engage with one another in meaningful ways. Overall, American pragmatism has emerged as a vital philosophical movement that rejects abstract metaphysical systems in favor of practical evaluation of ideas. By prioritizing the practical utility of beliefs, pragmatism encourages individuals to assess concepts based on their impacts on everyday life and their effectiveness in addressing real-world challenges. The influence of pragmatism extends across disciplines, shaping reforms in education, law, psychology, and ethics, and fostering a cultural appreciation for pluralism and adaptability. As we reflect on the legacy of American pragmatism, we see its enduring relevance in contemporary discourse, where the complexities of human experience, the necessity for practical solutions, and the importance of community engagement remain paramount. The pragmatist tradition continues to inspire thinkers and practitioners to navigate the intricacies of an ever-changing world, encouraging a philosophy rooted in action, experimentation, and the pursuit of meaningful outcomes. Analytic philosophy, which emerged in the early 20th century, represents a significant shift in philosophical methodology, prioritizing clarity, precision, and logical analysis. It arose as a response to the dense metaphysical systems that characterized earlier philosophical traditions, focusing instead on language and logic as essential tools for resolving philosophical problems. One of the hallmarks of analytic philosophy is the linguistic turn, where philosophers sought to understand how language shapes thought and creates philosophical puzzles, often aiming to eliminate metaphysical confusion through careful conceptual analysis. Gottlob Frege is often considered the father of modern logic and a pioneer in the philosophy of language. His development of the concepts of sense and reference transformed the study of meaning, distinguishing between the sense, the way in which a reference is presented, and the reference itself, the actual object denoted. This distinction laid the groundwork for much of contemporary semantic theory. Additionally, Frege's quantification theory shifted the focus of logic from syllogistic reasoning to a more formalized approach, influencing the later development of predicate logic. Bertrand Russell was instrumental in developing logical atomism and the theory of descriptions. His work on type theory addressed issues related to paradoxes in set theory and laid the foundations for greater rigor in mathematical logic. Russell's theory of definite descriptions provided a framework for understanding how phrases like "the current King of France" can function meaningfully even when they do not refer to an existing entity, contributing significantly to discussions of reference and semantics. Ludwig Wittgenstein's early and later works reflect two major phases of thought in analytic philosophy. In the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, he proposed the picture theory of language, asserting that language represents reality through logical structure. His later work, Philosophical Investigations, marked a shift from this idea, introducing the concept of language games. Wittgenstein suggested that meaning is derived from social use rather than a fixed correspondence to reality. Through his exploration of ordinary language, he emphasized how philosophical problems often arise from misunderstandings of language. Rudolf Carnap was a central figure in the development of logical positivism. He is known for the verification principle, which asserts that a statement is meaningful only if it can be empirically verified or is tautological. Carnap's work emphasized the importance of explication, clarifying abstract concepts through formalization and logical analysis, seeking to rid philosophy of metaphysical claims deemed non-empirical. U.V.O. Quine challenged foundational concepts of analytic philosophy, particularly the distinction between analytic and synthetic statements. He argued against the analyticity of statements, positing that our knowledge is a web of beliefs that must be assessed holistically, a view encapsulated in his idea of ontological relativity. Quine's naturalized epistemology shifted focus from traditional philosophical questions about knowledge to investigating how we acquire knowledge through empirical and scientific methods. Emerging from a desire for precision and clarity, analytic philosophy prioritized logical analysis and the examination of language to tackle philosophical issues. By engaging deeply with concepts such as meaning, reference, and verification, analytic philosophers aimed to clarify philosophical discourse and minimize metaphysical confusion. The contributions of figures like Frege, Russell, Wittgenstein, Carnap, and Quine have left a profound impact on contemporary philosophy, influencing fields ranging from logic and semantics to ethics and the philosophy of science. Overall, analytic philosophy continues to shape modern philosophical inquiries, emphasizing the importance of careful reasoning, rigorous argumentation, and the role of language in framing our understanding of complex issues. The commitment to clarity and logical precision remains a defining feature of philosophical work in this tradition, providing valuable tools for addressing both long-standing and emerging philosophical questions. Continental philosophy encompasses a range of philosophical movements and traditions that emerged primarily in Europe, focusing on questions of existence, consciousness, culture, and society. This tradition often contrasts with analytic philosophy, prioritizing historical context, narrative, and subjective experience over formal logic and language analysis. One of the most significant movements within continental philosophy is phenomenology, pioneered by Edmund Husserl. He developed phenomenology as a rigorous method aimed at describing the structures of conscious experience by bracketing or setting aside assumptions about external reality. This approach encourages a focus on how phenomena actually appear to consciousness, allowing for a deeper exploration of experiences themselves. Martin Heidegger, a student of Husserl, transformed phenomenology into an inquiry into the nature of being itself in his influential work, Being and Time. Heidegger's existential analysis sought to understand the conditions of human existence and our relationship to time, identity, and the world around us. Another prominent movement is existentialism, represented by key figures such as Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and Albert Camus. These thinkers grappled with the issues of human freedom, authenticity, and the inherent challenges of creating meaning in an absurd universe. Their famous dictum, "Existence precedes essence," reflects the rejection of a predetermined human nature and underscores the belief that individuals ultimately shape themselves through their choices and actions. This perspective emphasizes the personal responsibility of creating one's own values and meanings in the absence of universal or fixed truths. Critical theory, developed by the Frankfurt School, including thinkers such as Theodor Adorno, Max Horkheimer, and later Jürgen Habermas, provides an interdisciplinary approach to analyzing social conditions and power structures. This body of thought critiques instrumental reason, the reduction of rationality to mere means for achieving ends, and examines the cultural phenomena that sustain social injustices, often referred to as the culture industry. Critical theorists seek to identify and articulate emancipatory alternatives, aspiring to foster social change by emphasizing the role of ideology, culture, and communication in shaping human experiences. The movements of structuralism and post-structuralism also have a significant place in continental philosophy. Figures like Claude Lévi-Strauss, Michel Foucault, and Jacques Derrida explored the underlying structures that shape human culture and knowledge. Structuralists focused on identifying the rules and conventions that govern cultural phenomena, while post-structuralists challenged the notion of stable meanings, highlighting the plurality, difference, and contingency inherent in the categories we often take for granted. Derrida's concept of deconstruction exemplifies this approach, as it seeks to reveal the inherent instability of meaning, encouraging a reassessment of the assumptions that underpin philosophical and cultural discourse. In summary, continental philosophy encompasses a rich array of movements, each contributing unique perspectives on consciousness, existence, society, and culture. From phenomenology's rigorous examination of experience to existentialism's exploration of freedom and authenticity, and from critical theory's social critiques to the structural and post-structural analyses of meaning and culture, this tradition invites a deeper understanding of the complexities of human life. By engaging with these diverse philosophical currents, we are encouraged to reflect critically on our own experiences, beliefs, and the societal structures that shape our realities. Contemporary philosophy encompasses a broad range of movements and inquiries that respond to the complexities of the modern world, addressing pressing social, ethical, and epistemological issues. Among the significant currents in contemporary philosophical thought are postmodernism, feminist philosophy, the philosophy of mind, and environmental ethics, each bringing unique perspectives and questions to the forefront. Postmodernism represents a critical reaction against grand narratives and universal truth claims. Thinkers such as Jean-François Lyotard and Jean Baudrillard challenge the idea that any single framework can adequately explain the complexities of human experience. Instead, they examine how power dynamics shape knowledge and influence our understanding of reality. Postmodernists analyze concepts like simulation and hyperreality, where representations become more significant than the realities they purport to depict. This exploration leads to a recognition of the fragmentation of contemporary experience and a questioning of the foundational assumptions that have characterized much of modern philosophy. In parallel, feminist philosophy plays a crucial role in examining the intersections of gender, power, and knowledge. Philosophers like Simone de Beauvoir, Judith Butler, and Martha Nussbaum critique the male bias historically present in philosophical traditions, calling for a re-evaluation of both philosophical thought and practices. Beyond mere critique, feminist philosophy develops distinctive approaches to ethics, epistemology, and social philosophy, often centered on themes of embodiment and relationality. This perspective emphasizes how lived experiences, shaped by gender, inform our understanding of knowledge, ethics, and justice, advocating for a more inclusive framework that recognizes diverse voices and experiences. The philosophy of mind engages with contemporary developments in cognitive science, artificial intelligence, and neuroscience to address questions about consciousness, intentionality, and mental causation. This area of inquiry encompasses a range of positions, from physicalism, which asserts that everything about the mind can be explained in physical terms, to property dualism, which suggests that mental states are distinct yet closely related to physical brain states. Influential figures such as John Searle and Daniel Dennett contribute to these discussions, while thinkers like David Chalmers advocate for property dualism and explore the hard problem of consciousness, focusing on the subjective experience of mental states. Additionally, panpsychism has gained attention as a position that posits consciousness as a fundamental aspect of the universe, suggesting a more intrinsic connection between mind and matter. Lastly, environmental ethics emerges in response to the growing ecological crises facing the planet. Contemporary philosophers are developing frameworks for understanding human obligations to the natural world and our responsibilities toward other living beings. Approaches in this area include biocentrism, articulated by Paul Taylor, which emphasizes the inherent value of all living things; deep ecology, proposed by Arne Naess, which advocates for a profound change in human perspectives about nature; ecofeminism, represented by Val Plumwood, which connects ecological issues with feminist concerns and critiques the patriarchal structures that contribute to environmental degradation; and pragmatic environmentalism, as discussed by Brian Norton, which emphasizes practical approaches to resolving environmental problems while considering moral and ethical implications. These frameworks extend ethical consideration beyond human beings, advocating for a more holistic understanding of our relationship with the natural world. In summary, contemporary philosophy is rich with diverse movements that grapple with the complexities of modern existence. From the critical insights of postmodernism to the inclusive perspectives of feminist philosophy, and from the scientific inquiries of the philosophy of mind to the ethical frameworks of environmental thought, these various strands of philosophical inquiry provide valuable tools for understanding and addressing the challenges we face today. By engaging with these contemporary movements, we are prompted to reflect on our beliefs, actions, and responsibilities in an interconnected and rapidly changing world. Conclusion: the ongoing relevance of philosophy. Philosophy continues to hold great significance in our contemporary world as it addresses new challenges associated with emerging technologies, societal changes, and complex global issues. As we encounter developments in fields such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, social media, and surveillance, philosophy provides essential tools to navigate the ethical, political, and metaphysical questions that arise from these advancements. Through rigorous analysis and conceptual clarity, philosophical inquiry helps us make sense of the rapid changes and their implications for our lives. In an era characterized by information overload and competing truth claims, philosophy's emphasis on logical analysis and critical thinking is more important than ever. The ability to dissect arguments, identify fallacies, and uncover hidden assumptions equips individuals with the intellectual tools needed to evaluate the claims presented in public discourse. Philosophical training fosters discernment, enabling us to navigate the complexities of modern communication and propaganda, guiding us toward informed and rational decision-making. Furthermore, despite the ever-evolving landscape of technology and society, humans remain preoccupied with timeless questions concerning meaning, knowledge, justice, and reality. Philosophy's engagement with these perennial concerns creates a rich dialogue that connects us to a long-standing tradition of thought, offering us valuable perspectives on our place in the continuing human quest for understanding. This dialogue is not merely academic. It invites us to reflect deeply on our values, beliefs, and assumptions as we seek to orient ourselves within an increasingly complex world. As we confront unprecedented global challenges such as climate change, technological disruption, and political polarization, philosophy emerges not only as a theoretical framework, but also as a source of practical wisdom. By cultivating intellectual humility, fostering critical reflection, and encouraging imaginative thinking, philosophy equips us to navigate the uncertainties and intricacies of life in a rapidly changing environment. It remains a vital resource for promoting individual flourishing and facilitating collective problem-solving, empowering us to confront the myriad challenges we face and strive for a more just and meaningful existence. In this context, philosophy underscores the importance of dialogue, empathy, and reasoned discourse, reminding us that our shared human experience offers the potential for collaboration and growth. Thus, philosophy continues to be an essential pillar of our intellectual and ethical landscapes, guiding us as we seek to understand ourselves and our world in an ongoing journey of inquiry and discovery.